In August 2017, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, brought together hundreds of white supremacists, and the press finally woke up to the reality of white nationalism as a threat. Overnight, a speaker's market was created for former extremists who had an insider story to sell. People started getting book deals and TV specials. One American former neo-Nazi's going rate is $7,500 US plus flight and accommodations for a 1-hour talk. I don't think the media considered harm reduction when they rushed to turn former extremists into rock stars and role models. But Charlottesville undeniably led to a flood of repentance stories, where former extremists had financial incentives to leverage stories about hate and violence as long as they're followed by remorse and an honorarium. And full disclosure, I got bookings too, but my average honorarium for a talk is under $300, and I was writing about the subject for 6 years before Charlottesville without getting paid a cent. I helped to shut down a white supremacist terrorist group, and I was treated like garbage, while criminals like Grant Bristow, who terrorized dozens of Canadians, was rewarded by our government. I made a difference, but I didn't turn into an overnight celebrity. After Charlottesville, organizations headed by former extremists started getting tons of press coverage because they claimed that they could prevent radicalization and help people leave hate movements. But the truth is, most of these groups operate as an income source for the guys who run them. The majority of their time goes into soliciting donations and publicity. I don't think a single one of them has a criminology degree or formal psychology training. First, they claim they're fighting hate, but to do that, they need funding for operational expenses. Then they put all that money into their own pockets. You have to pay yourself a salary, right? And then into ad campaigns to solicit new donations. Then they need more money to save others from extremism, but it's all a cash grab, a repentance grift. Some of these guys still believe in the ideology they claim to reject, like an American neo-Nazi who was a Unite the Right rally organizer and left the white power movement just last year. This summer, he ran a Zoom workshop on fighting extremism and then praised Corneliu Codreanu and Romania's Iron Guard and degeneracy laws that throw gay people in jail. This guy works with a former Al-Qaeda member who sent text messages to a young woman wanting to leave a hate group, where he's hitting on her and bragging about how he used to be a terrorist and knows all about fission. Their group worked with a woman who just resigned from a teaching position at the University of Wisconsin after admitting that she lied about being black. And then there's the Canadian guy who was just arrested by the RCMP and charged with making a terrorism hoax for faking that he joined ISIS. Until he got arrested, tons of reporters and academics used him as a source. I remember the days when it used to be uncool to say that you're a terrorist. But this industry has become so lucrative that people are now lying that they were former terrorists just to get on TV. Want to know a dirty little secret? No white supremacist was ever de-radicalized by a TED Talk. The only people who believe that speeches by former neo-Nazis make any difference as deterrents in preventing extremism are people who don't know anything about white supremacy. They're typically nice, liberal, educated white audiences who love Oprah and Dr. Phil, but they don't understand what it's like to be impacted by violence simply because of their race, religion, or sexual orientation. When I first told my partner, who is black, about how much money some former white supremacists are making, her reaction was, "Have you ever seen one of their victims earn that much?" And she's right. What victim of racist violence ever gets $7,500 to talk about their attack? Audiences don't want to hear victims say that they can't forgive their abuser. It's not titillating. In this society, if you can't forgive, the question of what's wrong with you shifts from the criminal to the victim. We live in a society where those who do the platforming see nothing wrong with showcasing victimizers rather than victims. Our news feeds are bloated with clickbait horror stories. It's our modern gladiator games, dysfunction framed in Dr. Phil close-ups. Shock value is currency. And this thirst for spectator sports and vicarious suffering has led to former neo-Nazis transforming brutality into commodity and faking victimhood as an excuse to obtain a redemption earned through empty words, not action.